I was scanning through my old newspaper clippings that I occasionally will save screenshots of, and I came across this one that I was like, this deserves a quick video. So check this out: desecration of the French king's tombs. And again, I don't know what they're labeling everything as, but I got this from a mid-1800s National Recorder. I didn't save the link, I apologize, but you can check out National Recorder on archive.org and you will find a ton. And I can't remember which one it is, but it had to have been after 1793 because that's the date mentions. And so I just slapped together a bunch of AI art that I have that seemed a little relevant, and I'm just going to read this one-page little excerpt from this magazine, or this. The National Recorder is more like it's more like a magazine than it is like a newspaper. It's kind of like a book of a bunch of different things, and I think it came out every so frequently, whatever. You can check it here. These are the text that I have in case you can't find it. You can save those pages, but definitely listen to this because it's pretty ridiculous, and you gotta wonder like who or what was happening here that they were doing this. And also it's a little graphic. Be warned, because some of the things that they come across with these bodies while they're desecrating them is a little rough. And it says at one point, destined to, at the very end it says, destined to punish the enemies of the Republic. So that's what these actions were for, to do that. And they go to some pretty intense lengths. So enemies of the Republic, and we know now what the Republic is and has become, and it's just this more confusion of what this reality really is, and who is good, who is bad, and if it's all just so much controlled by God knows what, or who. But either way, it's an interesting read, and I think you all will like it. So take a listen to this. We'll just get right into it. Here we go. Also, be sure to keep in mind what we know about France in the early videos from the 1800s and the World's Fairs, and what Paris looked like at one point, and that's probably still with so many things destroyed in the surroundings. So France, everything was a lot more intense than we imagined. So for them to desecrate these kings in this way, it must have been a complete takeover of the realm. So, or something. Who knows? But here we go. Tombs of French kings. The National Convention in the year 1793 passed a decree upon the motion of Barrère that the graves and monuments of the kings in Saint Denis and in all places throughout France should be destroyed. Nor were they contented with this, but the graves of all the celebrated persons who had been interred at Saint Denis were opened, also that the leaden coffins might be applied to the use of the Republic. The details of this barbarous exhumation are curious, and serve to heighten, if that be possible, our abhorrence for an act so abominable in every respect. The first vault which they opened was that of Turenne. The body was found dry like a mummy, and of a light bistre color, the features perfectly resembling the portrait of this distinguished general. As Turenne did not happen to be an object of popular obloquy, some enthusiasm was felt or affected at the sight of his remains. Relics were sought after with great eagerness, and Camille Desmoulins cut off one of his little fingers. The body was turned over to the person who held the sexton's place, and he kept it in a chest for some months to make a show of it, till at the intercession of M. Desfontaines it was permitted to be removed to the Jardin des Plantes. In 1799 it was twice transferred, by order of the Directory, first to the Museum of Monuments, that most characteristic exhibition of French feeling and French taste, and secondly to the Church of Invalids, which, according to the anti-Christian fashion of the day, was then called the Temple of Mars. So, dear God, what happened before this reset? Henry IV's grave was the next which was violated. His features also were perfect. The head had been opened and a cavity filled with tow dipped in an aromatic extract, so strong that the odor was scarcely supportable. A soldier cut off a lock of the beard with his saber, and putting it upon his upper lip, exclaimed, "En termes énergiques et vraiment militaires," says the French writer, "Et moi aussi je suis soldat François. Désormais je n'aurai pas d'autre moustache." So you can kind of guess what it means. I don't really know. "Maintenant je suis sûr de vaincre les ennemis de la France, et je marche à la victory." So you can kind of guess what that is. You can see it from the text, but I don't know. It doesn't really seems more of a mock than anything actually important. But in spite, however, pardon my French for anyone out there, I was just kind of messing around. In spite, however, of this fanfaronade, The body was placed upright upon a stone for the rabble to divert themselves with it, and a woman reproaching the dead Henri with the crime of having been a king, knocked down the corpse by giving it a blow in the face, after which it was left for some days to be the sport of these yahoos, till it was thrown at last into the common pit prepared for the remains upon which their senseless vengeance was exercised. So these people are sick, and they kind of sound like a lot of the sick people that we hear about today, still doing things. So this force of evil is just ancient, sadly. Louis XIV was found in a state of perfect preservation, but entirely black. The body of Louis XV was fresh, but red, lying bathed in a liquor formed by the dissolution of the salt with which it had been covered. In the coffin of Jeanne de Bourbon, wife of Charles V, a gilt distaff was found with the remains of a crown, bracelets, and embroidered shoes. The body of Louis VIII was the only one which had been sewed up in leather. The leather was strong and thick and retained all its elasticity. The body was almost consumed, as was the winding sheet, but fragments of its gold embroidery were still existing. Dagbert and his queen Nanthildes were in one coffin with a partition between them. The workmen were long before they could discover the vault of Francis I and his family. It contained 6 leaden coffins deposited upon bars of iron. In all these, the remains were in a state of liquid putrefaction, which made its way through the lead as they were removed. The odor was almost insupportable. The bodies of many of the latter Bourbons were also in a state of decomposition, and when the coffins were opened, they are said to have emitted a thick black vapor, which, though vinegar and gunpowder were burnt to prevent ill consequences, affected the wretches employed in this inhuman work with fevers and diarrheas. Bastards. 2 large pits had been dug in front of the north entrance of the church, and quick lime laid in them. Into these pits the bodies were cast promiscuously, and the entrails, which had been deposited separately in leaden vessels, sounds a lot like ancient Egypt and different things we hear about that way, preservation. This lead in the leaden coffins were then carried to a furnace, which had been erected in the cemetery and cast into balls, in quotes, destined to punish the enemies of the Republic, end quote. And it was more than once proposed in the National Convention that the church itself should be totally destroyed. And it says New York American or something underneath it. But wow, so what the heck happened there, and who was doing the desecration? Why such intense hatred for these ancient kings and royalty? And it seems like that evil nihilistic force, atheistic nonsense was just creeping in at this time, and God knows what, this is right after the quote revolution, all these other things. Who knows what was happening during this time? I really don't. But it's just kind of, I came across that and just had to kind of bring it out there, because who knows what happened. I never knew what happened to those people. I just assumed they were preserved somewhere. You never thought that they would have, to the victors go the spoils, and whoever lost that war, whatever happened in France to turn it from the beautiful place it was in those old World's Fair videos and different amazing etchings of Paris from so long ago, where it seems like there was just thousands and tens of thousands of amazing, immaculate buildings, churches, everything. It was another force to be reckoned with. And what we get now is all this kind of stuff. And in 1793, that's when this national convention, whoever was leading that, ordered this desecration. And so what, who, what, you never know. I mean, everyone that controls information can rewrite themselves as the good guys, convince the entire world that they're the good guys. Meanwhile, we're all living in a world run by the bad guys. So it's just really sickening, and you just wish that things would be normal and better, and that this kind of stuff would just, we could just know the truth about why these things happened, how they happened, and who is running this place, because it is going out of whack and needs to be fixed. So either way, just thought you'd find this interesting. I like looking through old articles. I'll probably bust out a couple videos in the coming times that are just quick and have some of these little finds that I found, because they all add up to the greater picture of whatever the heck happened in the past. So I still don't know. If you've got any comments, definitely add them. Sorry if that was a little graphic, but I don't think it was too bad. Hope you enjoyed the AI art. It's always interesting to just plug in random things and see what happens, and I don't know, it's an interesting force, but it's visually definitely kind of cool, so I don't hate it too much, but I don't really love it either. So either way, check out some of those national recorders, see what you all can find, because there is a lot more out there to be discovered, and we are again just piling on and adding to it every day on Twitter and other things. In YouTube I see these additions to the entire story, and it's really just amazing. We're all part of the team uncovering the truth, so get at it, see what you can find, and bless you all.